How many times a day do you think about a buddy? Several times. This happens every day. You think about someone. They come into your mind and then they leave. You have no idea why. And you go on about your day. If every time you thought about somebody, you texted them or called them, even just wrote their name down, and at the end of the day, you called 5 people. So I was thinking about you. You'd be shocked, dude, because I use intuition in a very, very sort of magnified way to where almost every person I call now is like, dude, how'd you know I needed this? Like, how'd you know I was struggling today?
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. I'm your host, Jefferson K Rogers. And as always, we're here to bring you some serious value. I got a special guest today in the studio, Mr. Tyler Hall. My first time meeting him. We got a chance to catch up for a few minutes before the podcast. I'm really excited. You guys got to stick around for this whole thing. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, leadership, and how that applies to men's health. My guy Tyler here, and his new brand he's creating called Levels is focused on men's health. And it's an important aspect in life for me because with all the pressure that men have on them, there is some serious stuff going on in our culture today with suicide, and being able to have a culture and environment to be a part of and people that you can lean on sometimes makes a difference in whether you go down that really dark path or not.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what inspired putting together the group.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to meet you. I think, one thing I'll share is the person who connected Jefferson and I is somebody who I think we both have a deep mutual respect for, Justin Prince. And, anytime you're connected to somebody through a guy like that, you just know the connection's as good as gold, right? And so I consider
Absolutely.
you a brother already, even though we just met, because through association with Justin. So I appreciate you having me here. I think too often what happens when somebody's introducing themselves to a new audience or to a new person, in this case, we tend to like to introduce ourselves based on what we've done or what we do, right? Or accolades or how cool we used to be or how cool we currently are. Yeah. And I think that, I have a really strong, and this is really a part of Levels, is I think there's a bit of an identity crisis out there among men, among other things, right? Where men, if you actually ask them who they are at their core, most of them can't answer that. Right? I don't really know, right? So one of the exercises that we like to take men through is called the inner critic and I am statement exercise, which is write down 3 things that your inner critic says to you on a daily basis. I am fat, I am ugly, I suck, I'm the worst, I can't get a girl, I can't make money, whatever the thing is. And then essentially write down 3 statements that could combat the inner critic. Okay? So I'm handsome, I'm fit, I'm wealthy, I'm mentally fit, I'm great at relationships, whatever it is. And then what you do is you actually have them write this down on a sticky note, and you put the inner critic things, you pair them up, and I'd put my inner critic on your chest, and you'd put your inner critic on my chest. And then I'd say, okay, Jefferson, go ahead and read to me. Tell me your inner critic to me. So I'm fat, I'm ugly, and you got to say it to my face. And it's uncomfortable. It's hard. It's hard for me to look you in the eyes and be like, dude, you look like shit. Like, that doesn't feel good. Like, that kind of hurts me just saying that. And it probably doesn't feel good to you.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Like, dude,
just
you're
talking about
you're a loser.
Hypothetically.
Like, you're a loser, dude. Like, what is this stupid studio? Like, you're a loser. That doesn't feel good. But we'll do it to ourselves all day. That's the idea.
Without thinking twice.
Without thinking twice. So, like, why would we do that to ourselves if we weren't willing to look another man in the eyes and do it, right, to them? So the next phase of that is to go through the I am statement. So who are you at your core? And the way to inform this is actually through external validation. So we'd ask men, we'd say, hey, who are the 3 or 5 closest people in your life? And you would name them. You would know instantly. Here's the 3 people. I want you to text message them and say, how would you describe me to a stranger in detail? Okay? And then you're going to get these 3 responses back or these 5 responses back. And they're going to be long and they're going to be drawn out, but they're going to have all these descriptive words, all these adjectives saying, here's what I think, here's what I would do. Here's who I think you are. Okay. And then you're going to look at the commonalities between those traits. And that's going to help inform who you are. You're going to go, you know what? I am smart. You know what?
Yeah.
I am great at connecting with people. You know what? I am a good father to my kids. You know what? I am good at business, right? Because the people that I love the most, that I'm closest to, said so. And I believe that. So then it's as simple as writing down, here's who I am, right? So you want me to read mine to you? Would that be helpful for the audience?
Dude.
Okay, check this out.
This is such a cool activity. I'm already getting excited about it. I'm already thinking about 3 people I'm going to do this with.
I love it. In fact, you should do it now. And at the end, we should finish the exercise. I think it'd be awesome. Okay, so while I pull this up, you're going to type this text, okay? This would be fun to do live.
Okay.
So you're going to say, how would you describe me to a stranger? Please be as descriptive as possible. And ideally, please send this back within the next 30 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay, do you send it to 3 people?
Okay, I got the text.
Okay, so now copy and paste that and send it to 3 folks.
Okay, there's 1. Okay.
Are these people, as you do this, was it pretty obvious to you who these 3 would be? Or was it a challenge to think about who are the 3 that I want to send it to?
They are, well, I think it's as I think about sending these people a message who I deeply respect, it's challenging.
Why is that?
Because these are people that I know I've brought into my life for a reason, because they're willing to tell me how it is despite how I might feel.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious
Amazing.
what their responses are going to be. Okay, got it.
Okay, so we'll circle back to that at the end. So like, here's what mine looks like, right? So I'm showing Jefferson my phone for those who are listening, not watching. Okay, so incredibly talented, composed, right? So see these adjectives that I've highlighted? Composed, relentless, successful, blessing, life changer, mentor, husband and father, discipline, hardcore routine, communicator, right? So I took all these words, and here's what I came up with, okay? I'm a child of God with potential beyond human imagination. I'm a father of 4 sacred children and a husband to a loving wife. I'm a machine. My habits and routines can't be broken. A man of my word, I do what I say I'm going to do. A doer, watch my feet, not my lips. A long game player, not distracted by instant gratification. An acceptor of people. My ability to judge does not exist. I lift others and always bring good energy. I don't take things personally because I know who I am. Full of love for my fellow man, even tempered because I stay present. A calm and kind man, but not to be taken lightly. My sword is sheathed and will only be used if absolutely necessary. Called to change the lives of millions of men through my example. So that's who I am.
That's incredible.
Thanks.
How long have you had that in place?
About a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Thanks, man. So I encourage everybody who's listening to this, I just gave a very simple framework on how to put that together, and it's powerful, man. And, if you look at yourself, and I don't do this every day, but you look in yourself in the mirror every single day, and you tell yourself you're the man, like, dude, you're going to become the man. Like, period, end of story, right? So thoughts are powerful. Words are even more powerful. To tell yourself that you're awesome and you can do it and you are more and you are enough, and then state who you really are at your core every day. And that's going to change over time. That's okay. That's powerful stuff.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, how have you seen it make a difference in your life and how you show up say you walk into a room? How have you noticed that has changed over time?
Yeah. How has this changed, or how has it made me a better man?
So let me tell you where I'm going here.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed over time as I've developed some of those habits and just reinforcing and building belief in myself and using affirmations,
Yeah,
is it's helped me just show up differently because over time, you, just like you said a second ago,
Yeah.
you will become the man. And so I'm curious if you've seen a transformation of yourself over the past couple of years and in the past year since you've put this together of how it started to present itself.
Yeah. So it's a good question. Certain things on my list are things that I can today with conviction say I am. Other things, and you don't know which are which, by the way,
Right.
are aspirational. Okay. And so I'll give you one example, right? If I look at this list, a long game player, not distracted by instant gratification. Okay. This is one that I think men in general struggle with.
Yeah.
Which is, not getting sucked into the next cool opportunity or the next deal or the next thing, but being really focused on the long game and playing the long game as to where you want to go, right? So, that one for me, I think in the last 3 to 5 years, I've gotten a lot better at, where I'm not just trying, where's the next dollar going to come from kind of thing. But it's still, I want to be playing 100-year game, not a 1-year game, right?
Absolutely.
So
that's when you feel like you've made progress and you're proud of.
Yeah.
You've been able to recognize, be present, and I feel like I've made progress there too, especially as a natural type of entrepreneurial spirit. I get distracted by shiny objects very easily.
So it's hard to focus for sure.
And until I started to become very intentional with what my strategic priorities were and what my goals were, I would get distracted easily.
Yeah.
And so over time, the focus, the intentionality has helped me to stay laser focused on the things that matter, like my family, my business, my relationships. And there's countless things that before I had that in place and before I developed that discipline took me off track and distracted me and slowed me down.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that if you were to sum up like identity, right, to put a bow on this conversation, Justin Prince said it best, right? And he's a mutual friend, so I think it's cool to quote him on your podcast. He came on my show and he told a story about this boy that was at the gym pushing the sled, right? Have you seen this clip before on social media? And so the story goes like this. He says, I walked in the gym and I saw this young boy pushing a sled and went up to his dad and I said, hey, what school did your son go to? And his dad said, well, he's not going to school today. He got in trouble, so he's here pushing the sled. And Justin went about his day, did his workout. He's walking out the door. He said, you know what? I'm going to go back in and talk to this kid. So he walks in, he goes up to the kid and he says, hey, man, I don't know what you did. And frankly, I don't care what you did, but I just want to share this. You are not what you did. You are what you repeatedly do. Mm-hmm. And he says, look, dude, we all make mistakes. We're all, when I was a kid, I made a lot of mistakes, but just remember that, right? And I think to me, that's really the definition of identity, which is we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to do stupid shit. Like I've done plenty of that stuff, plenty, like more than I'm like comfortable admitting, right? But at the end of the day, the things that define us, what really makes up our identity are the things that we repeatedly do day in and day out. And so that's why I think it's important to develop that identity, that I am statement, and start to gain conviction around those points, because eventually they'll become habits, they'll become second nature, and it'll crystallize your identity over time.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of salespeople that listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, it reminds me of a good friend of mine. His name's Dave Allred.
Yeah, I know Dave.
Extremely articulate.
Yeah.
Very intelligent man, and spends so much time establishing these types of processes in his own life to solidify his goals, his dreams, who he is as a man, who he wants to be as a man. And when I first heard his rendition of this, very similar, he calls it his lifestyle design, I was so intimidated. And it almost made it like, I don't think that's possible for me, bro. Like, that's way too sophisticated. There's too much involved. I can't imagine how much time it would take me to establish that. But then what I realized over time is that it didn't start that way. Yeah. He didn't start that way.
Totally.
He's just a small town boy. Mm-hmm. And he talks about himself that way. And just over time, he he built the habits, he built the discipline, he had the repetitions of wanting these things in his life, and he started small, and he started compiling that list just like you did, very intentionally, with the people that cared about you and that were going to tell you how it was. And little by little, he built this incredible lifestyle design. So from your perspective, how does somebody get started on that outside of just that little exercise that we did? How do people get started to start building these type of structures in their life?
Man, that's a deep question, because like on one hand, there's a lot, but on the other hand, it's pretty simple, right? My recommendation, right, is this. You ever heard the concept of, you understand the term silver bullet, right?
Yeah.
What is a silver bullet?
Silver bullet. It's like the magic key. It's the be all end all.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a lot of people, specifically salespeople, I'm a salesperson myself, we tend to look for silver bullets. We want shortcuts. We want things to happen fast. We're aggressive, right? Like we want to push. The problem is I've never been a believer in silver bullets. I've been a believer in 100 golden BBs. Okay.
Okay.
And so the idea of 100 golden BBs is there is no silver bullets. There's just 100 golden BBs, which is the idea that you've heard of probably habit stacking.
Yeah.
Right? Or stacking your chips one thing at a time. Now, you don't have 100 golden BBs today, right away, right? You don't have an arsenal. You don't have tons of arrows in your quiver today when you're starting. But in the beginning, find out how to get one arrow. What's that one thing that you're uniquely qualified to do? What's that one value that when you walk in a room, you can bring that value? What is that? Any new relationship that you have, and it could be a long list of things. So here's what you do. You sit down. You say, what's the one gift to the world that I can provide? It's my communication style. It's my ability to love. It's the level of empathy I have. It's the intuition that God has blessed me with to be able to help understand who people really are. Write that one thing down, okay? That becomes part of your identity, more than likely. And don't feel like you have to have the silver bullet or even the 100 golden BBs. But then tomorrow, do it again. What's another thing? And eventually you start to stack those things. And again, you start to convince yourself, even though some may be aspirational, you may not be experts at some of these things yet, but over time you start to convince yourself that that's who you are. And then you turn into that. Like, have you ever seen somebody after not seeing them for like 5, 6, 7, 10 years? And you're like, dude, like something changed. And in your mind, you're still like, they're still the 5 year ago version. And you kind of get together with them and you're kind of judging them like, oh, this guy probably still sucks. He probably still just struggling his life away, trying to get the next dollar. And then they're just different. It's like,
Absolutely.
dude, something changed. What was it? Right? Like, dude, I love more than anything. I think men should aspire to be that guy, to be the one who a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you reconnect with a past friend and they look at you and they just go, dude, what happened? Give me the formula. What did you do? Right? This is one simple way to start becoming that man.
Without knowing that, that's essentially what I wanted for myself when I started down this path of doing something special with my life.
Yeah.
Because I had been the guy that was proud of, I could drink the most, I could smoke the most weed. I knew where all the parties were. It was the group of people that I was around, and it was the thing that I was recognized for, and I was proud of that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize where it was leading me, and then I started paying attention to it. And then I started to really think about, is this what I want for my life? I'm watching all these older people that are 20, 30 years ahead of me that are doing that, following that same path but never quit. Is that what I want for my life? No. And little by little had started to become that person. That if you ran into me years from now, I want to be so much farther ahead than where I'm at right now that you won't even barely recognize me. And I put a lot of that in my book because it little by little, and that's why I brought that up in that way and asked you what your interpretation of that is and how you do it.
Yeah.
Because for me, just like that example that I gave of Dave Allred, I wanted it to happen. And because I wanted it to happen right now, I get frustrated and I lack patience. But one thing that I think that I do well still, despite all those things, is I'll get to work on it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to take time and I got to have patience and that I need to start small. I got to start somewhere. When I first started trying to do smart things with my life, it was just getting 30 minutes earlier, I was going to wake up.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, that's the only new habit that I had built in. I was still doing all the other bullshit, destructive habits also.
Mm-hmm.
But little by little, as I started adding more, there was no more room for those negative habits.
There you go.
And I felt more and more guilty about those negative habits because of the direction that I was moving in. And it was just little, incremental. And I was the most impatient a mother effer you have ever seen because it wasn't ever going to happen fast enough for me.
Yeah.
But I still was putting in the work every day.
Yeah.
Just little by little, building some progress, getting some momentum. And now it's only been 6 years.
It's a beautiful way to start. And I think, where it gets a little more complex, the reason why I say these things can be really difficult, but also really simple. The version that we just explained, that's simple, right? Now, the other factors that go into becoming the most capable, high-value man possible are things like your environment, okay? So what are your thoughts on the idea that you are a product of your environment? Like, do you think that environment and influence around you plays a big part in who you can ultimately become?
Absolutely. It's maybe one of the most important aspects of success.
Yeah. And you're building, it sounds like you're building a culture where it's like, dude, we bring a bunch of people together who want to go places and who want to work hard and who want to, and just like that creates this fuel and this fire, right, between people that I think is unstoppable, right? And so are you trying to create an environment where sort of, the rising tide, which could be you, lifts all these ships? Is that the idea?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think everybody should, whether it's in business or just your little circle.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So have you ever heard the story about the elephant and the ropes?
I don't know if I have
this one.
Oh.
Okay. There's a man that travels to Africa and he goes to an elephant camp, okay, in Africa. He sees all these African elephants, right? Biggest elephants in the world. And they're tied by these small ropes around one leg to a stake in the ground. Okay. So think of a railroad stake. Mm-hmm. And he goes to the groundskeeper and he says, do these elephants not realize that with just one little tug of their leg, they could pull that stake right out of the ground and be out of here? Right? They're in an open field. And he says, yeah, but they've been tied to that same stake since they were little. And when they were little and they tried, they were stuck, right? And so therefore, over time, they just now psychologically don't believe that they can pull that stake out of the ground.
Yeah.
Right? What does that story mean to you?
It's similar to a story I heard about fleas in a jar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have these preconceived notions based off of the results of things that have happened in your past, and then you let it limit you on what is possible.
Yeah.
Because it's all in our heads.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea is like, don't create your future with your past, create your future with your future, right? Mm-hmm. So don't worry about past mistakes and past failures and past, missteps and roadblocks and all these things. Like, dude, look forward, become the person that you want to become by doing these little things, start stacking these chips, stacking these wins. Mm-hmm. That's the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I called you earlier when you were just wrapping up on Eric Gubler's podcast. Yeah. You guys put me on the spot. And I've got what I said was true.
Yeah.
Because every day I've gotten to a point in my career where I'm making more money than I've ever made. And things have gotten comfortable. And I got great people in place. My business is essentially running itself. And I can coast if I want to. And that's scary for me. Because I know that it just leads to me making bad decisions when I don't have things on my calendar that are going to challenge me and continue to push me and stay busy doing the things that are going to help me develop as a leader and a communicator and father and husband and everything. And right now I've taken it to another extreme to where I really am like as uncertain and as scared as I've ever been in my life because of these huge projects that I've taken on, these huge commitments, and the people that I brought on that I've committed to, and the big lofty goals that I've made and that I've said out loud to everybody, that now as a person of integrity, I'm 100% committed to going to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And just talking about them, I get like this big ball of, there's no other way to explain it except for anxiety.
Yeah.
I got this anxiety that just wells up inside of me because of all these commitments and this challenge that I continue to put in front of myself because I want to freaking level up, and never one day do I want another time to go pass in my life where I'm not improving.
Yeah.
But it didn't start that way. Because for you to get to a point in your life where being comfortable is scary, is extreme, but to me, it's like, it's so important for me, for my sanity, and for me to, as an addict, to not get scared about what that other path that I could go down.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully agree. So how are you, there's kind of like this, what's the question I want to ask here? There's like this balance between, taking on, like how do you think about the number of commitments and things that you've taken on versus trying to maintain some kind of, balance or personal life, or continuing to fuel your flame outside of work that will ultimately translate back into the workplace? Like, how do you think about these things?
I've always struggled with the word balance, because when I think about balance, I think about a scale. And when you have perfect balance, the number on the scale is 0. And I've heard a lot of different opinions on this. My mom is a big advocate for balance. She's been telling me my whole life about having balance in my life.
Yeah.
And so, as tactfully as I possibly could, it wasn't very tactful early on, I told her what I thought about balance. And to me, it's more about, because I want to be good at all these things. And when I show up to my business, I've got these big goals and I got a lot of people relying on me. I want to go hit big time numbers and make an impact on more people's lives. And then when I go home, one of the things I'm most proud of is being an incredible father and a husband. And I want to be the best at those things too.
Yeah.
So anything that's important to me has become, I give 100% when I'm in those moments. And I don't really have any room for anything else. I play a little bit of golf. I smoke a cigar occasionally. I ride motorcycles. And everything else is either JKR windows or my wife and my kids. And when I turn it on at work, it's 100%. When I turn it on at home, it's my 100%. When I'm out riding dirt bikes, it's gotten me into a lot of trouble with a lot of broken bones, but I'm 100%. So to me, balance is 0. If you want 0 results, try and shoot for balance in your life. If you want to do incredible things, all of those things have to harmonize together, and it is possible to be the best version of you with all of those things that are important to you.
Well said. I do think, like, here's where I would push back a little bit on what you said, right? I think that when I think about the word balance, what you described is the perfect description of what balance is, which is, again, take the scale analogy out of it because that one fucks with your mind, right?
Because it's 0, yes. That's why I struggle with it, because it's my own head.
Yeah. Get rid of that one. I don't like that one, okay? But balance to me is ultimately manifested through whether or not you're fully present in whatever the activity is that you're doing at that given time, right? So, and also you mentioned another word, which is priorities, right? Also having your priorities straight enough to ensure that things that are really the most important things in life, which by the way is not money and work, it's probably your kids and your wife and
Mm-hmm.
your family, are still part of the consideration when it comes to how you allocate your time, right? So I actually think that you have great balance, and I think that when I think about the work-life harmony thing, to me, what happens is that's where you start to lose the focus of being fully present, because we start to convince ourselves that I can take work into the home and I can take the home into work
Mm-hmm.
and still be fully present, which I don't think is true. So I actually think you've gotten to a place, to me, again, we may be saying the same thing using different words.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I feel like you've gotten to a great place of balance where your priorities are straight. You're not spending, like, look, you're still pushing financially, like you're still climbing that ladder. And so you've eliminated a bunch of the extracurricular stuff that you could be doing. That's stuff that you probably like doing because there's not enough time in the day to get because you're focused on your first two, right? Which is your family and your business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I love that. And I even wrote about it in my book because it's something that I've always struggled with, that concept. And it's in my head. And my partner, he sits right there in that chair. He says the same thing. He's like, dude, that's all in your head. It's just the way that you're looking at it. Because if you think about your life, whether you want to consider it balance or not, dude, you have balance.
yeah.
And people are looking up to you because of the balance that you've created in your life and because of your strategic priorities and the way that you talk about them. And people want that.
It's noble.
And you have something that people want. And when you talk shit on balance, you're not helping.
Yeah. Get rid of it.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. And despite how many conversations I've had with people like you that look at it differently, and my friend Jeff, I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
I'm getting getting it out of here.
Yeah.
No more.
That's one thing when you think about identity, right? Is like, this is another really important point, which is this. If you call yourself a winner, you're not going to show up and play like a loser, right? If you call yourself, if you think that you're a great husband, you're not going to show up and be a poor husband. If you think you're a great father, you're not going to, right? So with all these things, you know, the leading one among men and women probably is, well, genetically, I can't change my body because I'm supposed to be fat. Just look at my parents, look at their parents, right? And people get this block. Literally, it's like a physiological block in the body that doesn't allow them to get in good shape because they've told themselves so many times that that's not for me.
And it has become their identity.
And it has become their identity. And it's so deep that they actually cannot change. Their body won't allow them to change. This is just science, right?
As long as it stays their identity.
As long as it stays their identity. So same thing with things like this, where you have this blocker. I think it's a blocker to be saying, like, I don't believe in balance, because I agree. I think you do. And I think it's there. And if you can eliminate that from your vocabulary and start saying, like, dude, I'm the most balanced dude out there. Like, I got super balance. In fact, it's like my gift. Like, let me give this back to all of you and really help people prioritize and focus and learn how to be present. One of the hardest things in the world for men is just learning how to be present, not in the room, present, different, right? I think you're going to change a lot of lives through that when you can figure that out.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
It's like I sometimes need permission.
Yeah.
And an outside perspective, just like we all do.
Yeah.
That's the importance of plugging into tools like this, like a podcast, coaching, mentoring, surrounding yourself with great people that'll help you change your belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so important for me early on to get involved with that mentoring program and get around a bunch of average and ordinary people that were just doing incredible things with their life. And it made it seem possible for me.
Yeah.
And it started to help me change what I thought was possible in my income, in my leadership, in my communication skills. It's so important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
So now, you know, one of the things when we first started this thing and I said the word suicide, like, this is such a scary word.
Yeah.
And dude, I've even got people right now in my life that I love and I care about that are maybe even considering suicide. And as much as you love and support them and try and send the text messages letting them know that you want to include them,
Yeah.
you never know if it's going to be enough. And I wanted to talk about this because it's uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Because I want to know better how to handle it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've got more experience handling it. And I think everybody, if you haven't lost somebody close to you, you said you lost 6 people. Inevitably, you're going to lose somebody close to you that you may or may not have been able to have an impact on. I had a close childhood friend that was sitting right here in this office, and he came and he was reaching out and he was asking for help. And I don't know if I could have done anything else, but 2 weeks later, he went and drove his truck off a cliff. And that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life. I'm not sure if I could have done anything, but I feel like I could have.
There's a one of the leading causes of suicide among men is that 93% of men, when they're in their darkest hour, okay, the hour where the thought of suicide becomes a seed or a stem in their mind, they don't feel like they have another man, not even one, that they can pick up the phone and call and tell them what they're going through. Not even one. And I think there's a lot of, you can't really chalk this up to just that one thing, but I think that will slow this epidemic that we have, which is suicide, the suicide rate among men in not just America, but globally. This will slow this down, this one principle, which is what happened, what the fuck happened to just checking in to check in?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened to this? When was the last time somebody called you? I want you to be honest. Just to say, hey, man, I'm thinking about you. How are you? How are things? You good? Good. And that's it. No strings attached. When was the last time?
Never.
Never, bro.
Never.
Never. And it's like, dude, I could ask 100 men the same question, and most of them would say never, or, you know, it did happen one time 5 years ago, and I remember that shit. It was that powerful. And so if I could teach anything to the people listening to this today, it would be check in on your people only for one reason, and that's just to check in and let them know that you're thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It would blow your mind. Like, here's how this conversation goes. Like, let's just role play this. I'd be like, I'd call you, and I'm going to do this now, and you're going to be like, whoa, that's crazy, right? I'd call you and be like, what's up, Jefferson? How are things? How are you going to respond? Normally, like if I called you out of the blue, hey, dude, what's up, dude? How are things?
You want to know where my mind goes?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Because I've been a part of multi-level marketing companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Immediately I go to, oh God, what's he trying to sell me?
Yeah. Or what do you need?
What are you trying to recruit me to this time?
Right? What's up, dude? How are things? Like you immediately go to, this person needs something from me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What if I just called you and was like, what's up, dude? How are things? And you're like, good. Yeah, dude, what's up? How can I help you? And I'm like, you can't, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You good?
Yeah. You know what I have? You know, you heard of Dave Blanchard?
Yeah.
He does this. And so I've done it a handful of times with close friends of mine.
Dude, how's that?
And because I've also messaged these people years ago to recruit them to something, it also almost has deterred me from doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's childhood friends and people that I'm really close with or family that you never know if it could lead to anything. But I get so busy with life, and we all get so busy with life, that there's important people in our lives that we lose touch with, that whether it's the answer to something severe going on in their life, or it's just that you get done with a conversation like, man, he really wasn't messaging me for anything but to say hi.
Yeah.
And it like planted a seed. It inspired them to maybe do the same thing. You were thinking about somebody and you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not just call or text, which mine are mostly text, just saying, hey, buddy, I was just thinking of you. You know I love you, man. Just wanted to say hi.
Text is great. Text is great if that's all you can do. A call is better, exponentially better. And, people know me for this. My close friends know that I do this, and they still don't do it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They still don't call to check in on me. It never happens.
Mm.
I'm just waiting for one of them to just be like, "Hey, dude, I was just calling to check on you." Like, I'm going to be like, "Yeah, baby, we made it." Like,
Worked with one person.
Someone else is doing it, right? And so, to take that to the next level, are you a spiritual guy?
Mm-hmm.
You believe in God?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Take that to another level. I believe that men, by DNA, all of us, we're blessed with a gift, which is the intuition to understand other men, whether they're struggling, whether they're doing amazing, whether there's nothing going on in there. I think we all have intuition.
Mm-hmm.
You have to call upon that intuition by asking God to make that intuition powerful. Because if everybody did this, here's what would happen. If everybody was really in tune with that intuition, then anytime you had a thought about somebody and you knew that that was like intuition given to you by God and you acted on it, right? How many times a day do you think about a buddy? Several times. This happens every day. You think about someone. They come into your mind and then they leave. You have no idea why. And you go on about your day. If every time you thought about somebody, you texted them or called them, even just wrote their name down, and at the end of the day, you called 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about you. You'd be shocked, dude, because I use intuition in a very, very sort of magnified way to where almost every person I call now is like, dude, how'd you know I needed this? Like, how'd you know I was struggling today? And that's like another level, dude. I got one yesterday. I text my buddy. I said, dude, I don't know why, man, but like, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're okay. It wasn't like, how are you? It was like, I hope you're okay. And he goes, dude, I'll read you the text. There's no bullshit. I'll show you the text.
Wow.
Here's what he said. He said, I'm not doing well, man. In some ways, I'm lucky to still be here as things have gotten pretty dark. But no, I'm not doing much. I'm gaining weight. I'm watching a lot of TV. I've been reading a little. That was his response. And so obviously I called him. And I said, hey, man, talk to me. What's going on? And he just spilled everything. My wife just filed for divorce. I cheated on her. Here's what happened. I don't see a reason to be around anymore. I really don't. And it's like, okay, what else? What else? Right? You start unpacking that, and I text him every day now. I said, I'm going to text you every day. I want to make sure you're making progress and you're doing things to improve your situation. And I'll help you with those things, whatever they are, right? But I think it takes that, if we're going to stop this, it takes another level of just discipline and desire and care around asking God for a heightened level of intuition and then acting on those promptings.
Yeah, I think as much as anything, the desire and the care. Because it's not like we don't care for people.
Yeah.
I've got a list of people that I care about. But in today's society, we get so busy doing a bunch of shit that doesn't barely even matter if you compare it to those people that we love.
Totally.
And so I think that's where, it creates this whole string of patterns with people. And then there's shit that happens that they regret because of all the unimportant shit that they were paying attention to, and they were neglecting all the important shit. And then they go into this pattern of having those kind of thoughts that your buddy's having.
Yeah.
And if you just had a desire and you were exposed to that type of environment and you were around people that were doing it and it was a part of your culture, think of how many lives that you alone have impacted and inspired those people to then maybe, even if it's one call, the hundreds of people that have been impacted just by your efforts alone and your desire to do that. Yeah. That's why I love your message and this group that you're aspiring to create because of the impact, the trickle effect, the culture that it creates, the awareness, for us to just get out of our own freaking way for a few minutes a day and pay attention to these intuitions that we all have. And I know every single person that as soon as you said that about having a friend's name come to mind, like, I don't know where that came from. That was something. That was something, you guys.
Yeah.
Pay attention to it.
Yeah.
That person might have needed to hear from you. And just like most of us, it was gone. And now I forgot. I've thought about somebody earlier. Wasn't sure who it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you were right on to doing something that wasn't even that important.
Totally. We did this at our levels retreat. So we, sort of the soft launch of the brand, we produced a mini documentary, 25 men in Sedona. 25 of the 25 men said this changed their life forever, right? The things that we did. One of the frameworks that we taught was this concept of checking in to check in. And so as part of our morning routine, both days, we prayed and asked God to help us have a heightened sense of intuition around who we could reach out to. And then each person reached out to 3 people. So 75 people got messages that day. And each evening, we shared responses that we got from people. And you would be blown away at some of the responses. Some of the people just saying, you have no idea how bad I needed somebody just to reach out and say, and just let me know that they're thinking about me.
Mm-hmm.
So many people, right? So, this is only one part of levels. I think it's a really important one. And I think if we did nothing else but instill this principle in millions of men, it would change the world.
I agree with you. Who you surround yourself with becomes you. That same friend I was talking about when we were in high school, we acted like each other, we talked like each other, we wore the same clothes. He wore his hat to the left, I wore mine to the right. We answered the phone the same. Who you surround yourself with, if you're intentional, you want to plug into making more impact, feeling better about the leadership that you're offering, the sales abilities that you have, your ability to connect with people. I was just thinking back through it now because one of the tabs on the leadership development spreadsheet is relationships. And Dave told me one time, he says, I challenge you to do this. Same thing you just did. And I'm not sure where he got it from, but he says, once a week or sometimes a couple times a week, I make it a priority to just call and check in with somebody.
Yeah.
And then I heard it from Dave Blanchard, and now I'm hearing it from you. And it's like a message. It's that intuition or this consistent message that's popping up in your life, and it's popping up for a reason. Because likely you should be doing it.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's challenging and it's scary, that's even more of a reason to do it. Because I get this, I always point right here because it's this weird sensation I get when things are uncomfortable for me. And now I'm a very visual person, and I start like processing all these scenarios, and then it gives me this physiological response. An even better indicator. If you're scared of something, you should do more of it.
Yeah.
And I love that thing alone because there's so many people out there, including people that both you and I care about, that if it's not from us, who's it going to be? And if it's not from you, who's it going to be? If they need to hear that message, who else is on that level? Who else is that intentional? Who else is going to be able to make that type of an impact besides you?
Yeah, we have to leave our ego out of the equation and not. One of the 4 agreements is to not make assumptions, right? Don't make assumptions. And sometimes what we do is we assume that if we send this text, then they're going to think that we need something and it's going to make me feel awkward and it's going to cause friction in our relationship. Like, you got to just leave your ego out of it and go, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do and because I felt prompted to do it. And sometimes, by the way, it's, hey man, how you doing? are things? Life good? And it's like, yeah, dude, I'm doing awesome. How are you? And you're like, great. And like,
Mm-hmm.
you can move on with your day and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like not all the time these things are like these like, you know, earth shattering moments, right?
Right.
A lot of times they're not.
Which mine have never been.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I was ever expecting that.
Yeah.
Or needing that. Usually it's doing great, buddy. Thank you for reaching out. How's the family?
Yeah.
Glad to hear things are going well.
Yeah.
But you never know. It could be that one time where it was an earth-shattering type of experience for that person that you reached out to.
I had a friend recently. I'll share this one with you. I reached out to him and I called him on the phone and he answered and he goes, "Hey, dude, I'm in a meeting. Is it quick?" I go, "Yeah, man. No worries. Just checking on you." He's like, "No, what do you need?" So he actually runs like the biggest like carpet cleaning business in Arizona. It's called Coconut Cleaning. Now the world knows who I'm talking about here. And I go, "No, dude, just checking in, really." And he's like, "Really, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you okay? You good?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good. And I go, I felt something was off in his tone. It's over the phone. I can't even read body language at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I go, "You sure?" He goes, takes a big deep breath. He goes, "No, dude. No, I'm not good. I'm not good." I go, "You got time right now or do you want to call me back?" He goes, "Dude, shit's hitting the fan. Here's what's going on." Explains the whole thing. I go, "Cool. What are you doing tonight?" So I'll be off at like 6. I'm having a few team members over. I go, "Cool. You mind if I come over?" Right. By the way, he knows like I'm a very busy person. I've got a lot on my plate. I very sort of strategic with how I use my time. I said, "Hey, you mind if I come by?" So I go to his house that night. He has a couple of executives from his team over to deal with some of these really big issues that they're having in the company. And he shares this story with the execs. He says, "Hey, I just want you guys to, there's something that we can all learn here from Tyler." And I was really there just to listen, but I ended up sort of helping moderate some of this discussion, right?
Yeah.
And he said, "Nobody in my life has ever called me just to check in, except for Tyler." And he said, "It's not enough sometimes just to say you're okay when you're not." And he said, because guys like Tyler won't accept that as an answer if they think something's off. They think something's going on, right? So, you know, one of the principles here too is to take that intuition to the next level is being willing to press when you think you should press. Because sometimes people need you to pull it out of them. Sometimes it's like, "Hey, you sure you're good?" They're like, "Actually, no." You're like, "Well, what's going on?" They're like, "Well, I just have this issue with my wife." "Well, tell me about it." "Oh, well, dude, I don't know. She just never listens to me, never gives me free." "Okay, what else? What else you got?" Allow people to have a space, finally, for once in their fucking life, where they can just like give it all to you and really lay it out there. And then don't react any sort of way. Don't be judgmental. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't start offering advice. Just like, "Dude, I hear you. I hear you. Like, what are you doing to improve your situation? Anything? Do you want my advice? I have some thoughts. Do you want that? Is that an appropriate time?
Yeah. Are you open?
Now? Are you open to this conversation? Or do you want to, do you want to meet in a week? Do you want to meet tomorrow?" Like, so I think that's, we've talked about kind of the levels, right? To how you do this.
I was just thinking as you were about to say that's a kind of an advanced level.
Yeah.
The way that you talk about it, the experience that you have. And as we wrap up here, I think that it's a fun aspiration to have, to be able to be at that level in your life where you're that guy that people run into after years being like, "Holy cow, dude, something has changed." You have a different energy about you. Your confidence is incredible. And then to also be able to make a phone call like that and to be able to push a little bit and to be able to recognize and have that intuition that you can't fucking bullshit me, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Just be straight up with me. I can tell there's something going on. I didn't get this feeling to call you for no reason.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't. But if not you, then who? If
There you
that
go.
person really needed to hear that message, there's no other person in their life that would challenge them, and to be able to push for the answer like you can, if you can develop yourself in that way. Because I don't think everybody is in a place where they could, but you start stacking those wins up, you get more confidence, you start getting better with people, you're able to read situations and have intuition about things that normal people just don't have because of the work that you've done. And I feel like, despite having some of those abilities myself, I'm not tapping into it. So thank you so much for the inspiration to do more of that. And I'm already known as somebody who's very forward. But if I could channel it, just like my addictive tendencies channeled towards doing productive things instead of destructive things, you get these abilities, and you can learn how to channel them for more impact and to bring more value, especially if you surround yourself with great people that challenge you and bring awareness to what those things are and the power that you have in your abilities.
Agree. Great discussion. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming out, man. Another great episode. If you made it to the end of this thing, that was phenomenal. And what an interesting subject too, because I know this is for a lot of people a difficult subject to talk about. So if you know somebody that could benefit from this, send it. Hit the share button, send it. Tell them to come check out the Just Real Quick podcast. We got real deep here about men's health and being able to connect and level up and what it looks like, and kind of a system for you to go from where you're at to where you would like to be. And every week we're trying to add as much value so you can continue to add that dynamic in every area of your life, in sales, in leadership, relationships, communication. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the podcast. Keep coming back every week for more on Just Real Quick. See you guys next time.